Welcome to the T&B podcast. We got a special one today. We got NFC Championship coverage. We got my main guy, Brian the Main Man Johnson. I got Daren from Fat Boy Fadeaway, and we got our special guest representing those Detroit Lions, CHEN from the Fellas Sports Rap. I'll let you plug all your stuff at the end of the show. Do your thing.
All right,
but
brother.
CHEN, how you doing? How excited?
Good.
First, let's give ourselves a round of applause for being in the NFC Championship, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Round of applause.
Has Ed Warder showed up? Because I know you're America's Team 2.0 this week.
We're talking trash already. Brian, come on. Daren, your team hasn't effed up the offseason so far in 2 weeks. That's something the Raiders could be proud of.
We signed it. Of course, you get Pierce, and then Harbaugh joins the division right before you get on the show with you. So there's always something going on in the NFL. But you guys, I'm looking forward to, these matchups. The only thing I thought at last was the Jim Schwartz situation. That's the only thing I think about when I think Lions-Niners. So we actually have some real history to kind of get into tonight. So it'll be fun to hear what CHEN's thoughts of it from the Lions side.
CHEN, how you doing? First time in the NFC Championship game since 92, 93. How you feeling?
Long time coming.
91,
Long
92.
time coming, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy to be here, but, not ready for the season to end, man. Not ready for the miracle run to stop right now. Maybe, this is the weekend that, I know you guys think that Cinderella's shoe is going to, the slipper is going to fall off, but, man, not now, man. Not now, man. Let's take this all the way to Vegas, baby.
Absolutely. I think that's all of our goals here on this podcast, getting to that Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. Let's start with the divisional games. We'll start with our 49ers, the TMB podcast home team. The 49ers, that's not what I want. Yeah, the 49ers defeat the Packers 24-21. Christian McCaffrey scores a late touchdown. The game is within doubt for both teams the whole time. One score game, 4 lead changes. Brian, what were your thoughts on this game?
I was surrounded by a bunch of Rams and Cowboys fans, so I was worrying a little bit because I was like, I would never hear the end of it if the Green Bay would have pulled off that game. So I'm happy that CMC ran it in and got us into the NFC Championship game.
What were your thoughts on Brock Purdy, the national media, the hate? Everybody hates Brock. Is it fair? Is it justified? Why do people hate this man? It doesn't make sense to me as a 49ers fan. Obviously, he's had 2 bad games in his last 3 weeks with the Ravens and now this game against the Packers. But
I don't know how it was a bad game. He didn't turn it over. He was a little bit rusty because they had 3 weeks off, but he led a game-winning drive without your best receiver. It's like, I don't know how that was a bad game.
He threw one good pass until 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. His reads were off. He should have thrown a pick 6 on the first drive. He was inconsistent. If you don't want to say bad game, his numbers are fine. They win the game. But those first 3.5 quarters were garbage, in my opinion, as a 49ers fan. That's not going to get us to the Super Bowl if he does that again. CHEN, what are your thoughts on the whole Brock situation with the national media and whatnot?
So I think it's a couple of things here. I think that, personally, how I feel about Brock, I think Brock is an excellent quarterback. He's played at a high level the last 2 years that he's been under center for a year and a half, whatever however long it's been. He's shown to be a solid processor of the game, accurate passer. I think he shows some times where he can make some special throws. Definitely fits Kyle Shanahan's system. I would probably call him more so of a high-level elite game manager, if you will. Maybe not special, but hey, we've only seen him for a year and a half, so maybe if he does this for a couple of years, we'll designate him as special. But he's a good player, great player, but he is human. He does have a couple of instances this season where we're going to talk about it later, but where he's shown himself to be human and make some mistakes in this game and in his game. So I don't think I won't give him special at this point. But he's a good NFL quarterback. You can win with him. That's been clearly shown.
Yeah, with the 20-5 record, 29.2 points per game. He's top 5 in many categories this year. He was an MVP candidate till week 16, 17. Daren, what are your thoughts on the situation?
The only thing I've always said with Purdy that I would be concerned about if I was a Niners fan is like if one of the guys are missing, like especially with Samuel, he hasn't quite figured it out yet. And so like we talked about that, Brian, with the previous, like if Samuel's out, Purdy, it's harder. Like that's how much Samuel means to him. And like I'm curious to see if he can raise the level of some of these other guys mid game a little bit more. But the last drive, like Brian said, it's hard to hate all that. I think with money on the line, he delivered right there. Obviously, they ran the ball well.
I mean that pass to Jawan Jennings was just beautiful.
I mean, he's a 7th round pick. I mean, that's what he gets. I mean, you have to prove things when you're that late. Like Tom Brady was a 6th round pick. Like the reason he won the Super Bowl that first year, it's like boom. Now he's proven a little bit, but he still had to prove it again. You know, it's like so. Like these guys that are taken late in the draft, they got to prove themselves longer than your number 1 picks.
Is that? But that doesn't make sense to me.
That's what I think. I think the media takes it like that. You heard a lot of these guys. Well, Purdy's just another guy. They didn't look at him as special like that. Like that's what I thought.
It's interesting. That's an interesting point that you make. I think the media, the fans, everybody kind of looks at it that way. But once you get into your 2nd and 3rd year, you can pretty much throw draft pick out of the equation. Once you prove yourself, basically, to be worthy to be paid. Once you're paid like a superstar or a high level echelon player, all that draft stuff goes out the window. I think a part of the issue is that he elevated himself quickly into the conversation of things like MVP. Yeah, he had a great year statistically, but we don't like to see an unproven player immediately elevated to that level. You know what I'm saying? Before kind of proving themselves, if you will. Last year, he got injured in the playoffs, so we didn't really see him in the postseason and what he had. This year, he's going to, get a chance to prove exactly what he is. He's also going to be, face the curse that he did fall, land on third base, as my man Jim Harbaugh would say. Landed in San Francisco with a great coach and some great weapons around him. Some folks like to say, we want to see a quarterback get it out of the mud, if you will. So he's going to face those type of questions. But if he continues to win and continues to put up the numbers that he's been putting up, it's no question people are going to elevate him to where a Tom Brady was, if he has that type of success, or wherever they deem him where he belongs. But he's up to this point, definitely top 5, top 8 quarterback, top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now.
I agree with you on the top 5, top 8 around there. Is it if you can't break down a defense with your legs anymore, you'll no longer be like game-changing quarterback? Because every quarterback everyone considers game-changing, whether it's Josh Allen, Lamar, or Patrick Mahomes. They can all use their legs to get first downs, make big plays. Is that what separates these game managers now from the elite quarterbacks or the game-changing quarterbacks? Anyone can take it.
For me, I think there's still a lane for pocket passers. I think there is going to be, if you do have, and let's be honest, everyone across the board from every position is becoming bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic. And if you have to make a defense defend 11 players offensively by making your quarterback a little bit more mobile, that does give a little bit more of a threat to a defense. And I think that does kind of affect your offensive ability. I think we're going to see a number of players who can run, but this is really no new phenomenon. No, I don't think that, I think we hear the mobile quarterback, but I mean, Fran Tarkenton, I didn't see him play myself, but if you look at the numbers, Fran Tarkenton was a mobile quarterback. Steve Young was a mobile quarterback. John Elway was a mobile quarterback. Warren Moon at times was a mobile quarterback. Mike Vick, we've seen this before, so this is really no new phenomenon. I think that we get a little bit freaked out when we see some of the new guys and what they can do, but being able to force a defense to defend you and your feet, I think is the new wave. But are guys going to be forced to still play from the pocket? Yes, because they're not going to want to get hit all the time either.
But I mean, you could really say Purdy's somewhat a mobile quarterback.
Because, Purdy can move.
Yeah, he could scramble. He can get first downs when he wants to, and he's not just some statue in the pocket. I mean, I've seen the guy make plays where he's about to get sacked, and he threw a pass to Ayuk, and unfortunately, Ayuk dropped it. But
Yeah, and against the Seahawks in the NFC wild card or division, wild card last year. Yeah,
That was probably
he's going
one of
for
the
his fourth
best
touchdown.
throws I've ever seen. That was like a Patrick Mahomes type
It was
throw.
like a Archie Manning, Fran Tarkenton, like CHEN brought up earlier type play. Let's go to the Packers real quick. What are your thoughts on the Packers? Bright future, obviously. Is Jordan Love getting a little overrated at this point? He did throw 2 bad picks in the second half. It would be a lot different if Brock Purdy did the same thing. We're not going to go back to Brock. But what are your thoughts on Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers going forward?
I would say this. I think Jordan Love, man, looks very, very good this year. Every step of the way, he improved along the way. They're a young team, young weapons. I think that it's clear that he sat in that room and soaked up a lot of game from Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if they had conversations, they were the best of friends or the worst of friends. I just think that if you sit in that room and just can hear how A-Rod is able to dissect defenses, what he's seeing, him explaining it to the coaches, maybe not to him per se, to the coaches, how he sees these defenses pre-snap, post-snap, how he's reading things and breaking things down for 4 years. You're going to soak up some of that game. I think it definitely rubbed off on him. He's, again, a tremendously talented, physically gifted guy himself. And I think he had a strong year. Now, I will say this. He did benefit from 4 years of sitting or 3 years of sitting. You know what I'm saying? Some guys get thrown out there in the fire. Sometimes they get, like a deer in headlights sometimes. Sometimes after taking so many hits so early, not understanding protections and not really being able to adjust fully to the speed of the game, they become shell shocked, a la David Carr, if you will. So I think that there is some benefit for him being, first of all, having a great offensive system that he worked in, a great play caller, and getting a chance to play behind a solid offensive line and waiting 3 years to say, hey, I am physically and mentally ready to play at this level.
I feel like people kind of gave up on him at some point. I'm not going to call anybody out, but Jimmy from the Talking the Gridiron called him a bust at some point. So I'm just going to say that he sometimes you got to go. Sometimes you got to go with a young guy and see where he goes. And I think he developed into a good quarterback, in my opinion.
I mean, it's hard to unsee the guy who's playing still at, who was still playing at an MVP level, though. A-Rod was still playing pretty, up there. So it's hard to unseat that guy. You know what I'm saying? Just from outplaying him. No, we're going to have to go in a different direction for him to get the opportunity. But I think the timing was right. I think when you look at Matt LaFleur, he probably wanted to deal with a quarterback who he had kind of groomed up to that point. And, A-Rod is a guy that, I don't know him personally by any means, but I can see him kind of challenging some of the things that Matt LaFleur is kind of doing, while Matt LaFleur has probably got more buy-in from a guy like Jordan Love. So it was time to make the move.
I feel like telling Jimmy, not everybody's Burrow. But
not everybody can be Big Joe. Not everybody.
I feel like you're definitely Aaron Rodgers is giving some fight back with Matt LaFleur and wanting to run his own stuff. Daren, what were you saying?
I was just going to say I thought Love played well, and he's going to get. Obviously, you play a team like the Niners all the way to the wire like that. That shows something as a quarterback, and you're going to lead yourself there. My big takeaway just kind of from that game, which helped Love, which the Niners never allow, not in like 30 games, was 100 yards rushing. And I thought that was a big factor for Love getting a little bit more time too. Love did, to his credit, did make some plays out of the pocket, but that was a big part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. The Niners' rush defense struggled. We'll get into that when we break down the NFC Championship game. Let's move on. Before I move on, I do want to say Jordan Love does play in the same system as Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, McVay, McDaniel's offense. So they do run very similar stuff. But let's move on to the guest of the hour, CHEN's Detroit Lions. They beat the Tampa Bay Bucks 31-23, earned a trip to the NFC Championship. Like Brian pointed out earlier, for the first time since 1992. CHEN, just give me, what were your thoughts at the end of that game? It had to be an emotional whirlwind thing for you, being a fan of a team that has been so terrible at times.
Go ahead and say it, man. It's okay. Go ahead and say it, man. I'm not going to take any offense to it.
Dan Orlovsky running out of the end zone in Minnesota. It had to be a whirlwind of emotions. I'm just wondering how you felt and where was the turning point in that game as well?
Extremely happy, extremely emotional. Again, this is the second time, in my lifetime that we've made it this far in the playoffs. The first time was in 1992, like you referenced earlier. Again, life was a lot different then. Life was a lot simpler than I was in high school. My parents were still around. And I kind of reflected on that, man, a little bit. Wow, we were, celebrating. I was actually out of town. I was in Atlanta, but I had, spent some time with my family. My sister and my nephew was there, and my wife. We had, ran into a local watering hole, if you will, to watch the game, and it was kind of emotional because the last time, again, like I witnessed a victory, in the second round of the playoffs. I was with my dad actually at the Silver Dome, there, and again, I'm here with the second generation of my nephew at this game. Again, a lifelong fan. This is the first time he's experienced this, ever. And it was just kind of like, what I'm saying, like it was crazy. I was happy for the team. It was like, damn, it's been a long time since we've been able to do this, and it's crazy that the tradition is passed on. You know what I'm saying, if you will. From damn, it's been a long time since we won a game when we won a game. So that was cool. But with that being said, man, I think there's definitely a culture shift going on here with this team. I think it's being built very, very sturdily by Brad Holmes. I think Dan Campbell, who, I'll be the first to tell you, I wasn't a Dan Campbell guy initially, but I think that, what he's built up here in terms of being a leader of men is something special. And it's going to be interesting, this game with San Francisco this week, because it's funny, man. There's a couple areas that we don't really kind of measure up in, but when you look at this team, they're built very, very similar. I see a lot of Jared Goff in a guy like Brock Purdy, and I think those guys' performances in this game this week are going to be very, very key to the outcome for either one of our teams.
I feel like Jared Goff's thing could have went really different when you get traded for Matthew Stafford, and you did get a lot of picks, but he could have just fallen off the radar. I feel like he's made his game better. Like he just seems like a more developed quarterback in Detroit than he was with the Rams.
I'm gonna tell you this. I studied Goff a little bit, and I thought he was going to be probably a bridge, definitely, to something probably better. But with that being said, it was Brad who really, really insisted that Jared Goff be included in the deal when the deal went down, because they knew that Stafford was going to be included. They wanted the the 2 first-round picks or what have you. But excuse me, the Rams knew they had to do something with Goff. They weren't going to be able to continue to have him as well. So Brad insisted on having him. And I think that was great on Brad's part to have that foresight, because to be real with you, he had some very, very solid years with the Rams. He had Pro Bowl years with the Rams. He had won playoff games. He had taken them to a Super Bowl. So when he came here, we can say some folks, I guess, maybe from the ilk of the 49ers, who have probably had a 3-5 record against him and seen him a bunch of times in the playoffs. I'm sorry, in the during the season, they're kind of like, he's trash. To us, he can be a bridge somewhere, but right now, again, he's been everywhere. His pass is stamped everywhere that we're trying to go. We haven't won playoff games. We haven't hosted playoff games. We've never been to a Super Bowl. So with that being said, let's see what he can do here. So we've embraced him, and it's been, I think, good for both parties.
How comfortable are you giving him an extension of what quarterbacks make now at like this? Like, is that something you're comfortable with since he's got you this far, or is it something you'd rather just wait till his contract's up and maybe lose him?
With it. I believe in business. I believe in value. I believe in players, and he's easily earned a contract that's going to be probably in the neighborhood of, the floor for starting competent, somewhat proven quarterback starts at $40 million with Daniel Jones. So I think he's going to be somewhere anywhere between 45 to 48 to maybe even 50 million per, because of his age. And he's seen some good money in this league. It's not to say that he's going to take any type of discount, but I'm trying to get him to a 3-year deal, probably somewhere in that 135 to 150 million range, but with somewhere with a 2-year out, just in case we have something possibly with the Hendon Hooker or something goes bad. But otherwise than that, still fairly young in terms of his years for a quarterback. Quarterbacks are playing a lot longer I would be okay with extending him because we still haven't put all the pieces together around him. We're getting better, but there still needs to be a couple of more pieces added around him.
Has Daniel Jones done anything better for quarterbacks than get there? He's made everybody else, Tyler, a lot of money.
It's insane.
And that might be, hey, listen, that might be where Baker Mayfield has to start at 40, 30, 35, 40 million. He took his team to the playoffs.
You're right. You're right.
I mean, I was looking at his stats. I'm like, man, that guy's going to get a contract somewhere.
I thought maybe
I feel bad for whoever gives it to him. That's all I can say about that. I think he's a good player.
Listen, it works out for everybody because Calvin really did the same thing for wide receivers.
Yeah, that's true.
Christian Kirk and all those guys on the Jaguars who got paid. Before we move on from this game, I want to ask you, how surprised are you when you have a Jahmyr Gibbs and a David Montgomery 4th and 1 on your 1 yard line? Dan Campbell's grabbing his balls and say, we need to score on this play. And you give it to Craig Reynolds for a 1 yard rushing touchdown. I was shocked when I saw him back there. I was like, oh, this is play action. They're getting it to Laporta. I don't know. And they handed it off, and I was like, wow, that's a gutsy play call by Dan Campbell.
And I think that was the whole nine, man. You know, there's always, you know, Dan. It's love or hate with Dan. You gotta either love him or hate him for what he does. And every day I'm still trying to decide, man. I'm still flipping the coin. I like the aggressiveness, but I still would like it to be dialed back, probably like 15-20%, have a little bit more conventionalism, if you will. But with that being said, though, I think that's why he put Craig Reynolds in the game. I think that, you know, the defense thought very much like you thought, that there must be either an injury, number one, but they're going to, you know, use him as some type of decoy. He's a solid pass blocker, and they're going to do some type of play action play. So it surprised the hell out of everybody. But again, sometimes you need some of those unsung heroes to step up and make plays. So that was a key factor in that game.
I'm curious if the Niners in this game or Campbell, I mean, more so. Okay, he's going against the Niners. Like, that aggressiveness it's either one of those things where it's either going to pay off like immensely, like you would, or I think it has so much more of a chance to backfire than it has against them, I think, in the past, because the Niners offense can take a little bit more advantage of it. That's what I feel like, especially at home, eating the clock. Shanahan's a good coach. I don't know. I just feel like this is that time where if he does like go for, like, so far in the postseason, it's paid off. There was one in that first game where they went for it too, where it could have swung. They were up 14-10, I think, and he got it or something like that. But so, like, it's so far so good, and maybe that rides it his way there into a story, you know, fairy book ending. But there's also going to come a time, and I think that's what you're thinking in the back of your head, where it's like it will hit the wall. We can't get everyone.
It has before. It has before already. Just real quick, quickly to jump to a couple of things. When we were playing Green Bay with the game that we lost to Green Bay, they jumped out us, and I think it was Thanksgiving. They jumped out us quickly. I think it was 23-6 at halftime. Right out of the third quarter, we came down, we scored. Okay, touchdown. He went for 2 right away. So I already knew. I said, my coach is pressed. My coach is pressed right out. I know. Okay, so he's pressed. Green Bay comes back down. They didn't score. They maybe got 2 first downs. We stopped them. I said, okay, cool. 23-10. I'm sorry, 23-13. I'm sorry, we went for 2. So 23-14, 9-point game. It's like 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. We're still in good position. They stop us like at a 3 and out. We may have run, I don't think we got a first down, so we may have run like a minute or 2 off the clock. So it's like 9 minutes to go in the third. We're down by 9. And at that point, he decides that he's going to go for it on 4 from like 7 from our own 25 or 28, 30-yard line. Doesn't get it.
Yeah.
So now we're fucked. You know what I'm saying? So those are the decisions. Those are the decisions that I have a problem with, because at the end of the day, we're going to say, Green Bay guys out.
Wow.
I don't think he does that. But here's the thing. Here's the impetus for a lot of his moves that don't work. A lot of the times when we're in ball games, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it's more of a natural flow. So when it works, it's cool. It's cool. But when we get down, when he feels pressed, when we got down against Green Bay, if we get down by 2 scores to a team and it gets third quarter-ish, he gets a little bit pressed. If our defense isn't showing enough, you know what I'm saying, fortitude, if you will. We're not a great defense. We're going to give up 300 yards. I'm going to say that right now. We're going to give up 300 yards passing, somebody's going to have 125 yards and a touchdown. We're going to hope that it's not two guys in this game. But with that being said, we're going to hope that somebody makes a mistake and we do a great job against the run. There is a blueprint. There is a path to victory for us in this game. It's been shown 3 or 4 times this season. It's going to be tough to pull off and execute, but it is a blueprint, and we're going to talk about it later. But with that being said, that's the problem I have. If San Francisco gets out to a 10, 13, 14-point lead, well, late into the second quarter, is Dan going to be able to control himself, be disciplined enough to buy into the system and believe into the defense? Because now you got to believe the defense is going to have to get a couple of more stops that you didn't probably, count on initially. We're going to give up some points. When we score 7, we're going to hope you score 3. When we don't score, we're going to hope to somehow get off the field somehow. But it's going to be give and take. We're going to have to play some complimentary football, and part of the complimentary football is us possessing the football and scoring the football. So it's going to be a great game.
And I guess the biggest question is Eminem showing up to Levi's.
The real
I don't
Sweet
know,
Sadie.
man. Hey, he might. He's got the money. He's
No,
got the money. He
definitely
may
has
have
the
a
money.
winery. He may have a winery out there somewhere.
I wanted to get into the Lions rebuild because of how spectacularly they've done it since they did the Stafford trade, the Dan Campbell hire. I wanted to get what you thought of them when they first got there. You kind of told me that already. They had 6 players on this roster from before then. Taylor Decker is probably the most notable. But the way Brad Holmes has drafted these last 3 years with Sewell, Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the later round, Gibbs this year. They had another good first-round pick 2 years ago that's escaping me right now. Why isn't this guy mentioned more for executive of the year? Or he's obviously doing a great job acquiring talent in Detroit, where it's never been acquired like this before. I feel like he should be a household name as far as executives go.
I think after Sunday, if something special happens, I think he will. I think you're not talking about a bunch of household names, a bunch of free agents that he's going out in the free agent market and brought in. All of these guys are pretty much homegrown, except for Goff. You know what I'm saying? So I think as more people get exposure to what's going on in Detroit, what he's done, the success that he's had, the players that are actually out there making plays and where they came from and how they were acquired, you're going to see him in his profile, I think, been raised. I think so far, when you have a guy like Dan Campbell, who's I don't think that he hogs the attention or anything like that, but I just think that, the camera finds its way to him. And then Brad is, we're going to see Brad celebrating on the sideline. You're going to see Brad in the elevator screaming when we win a playoff game. But you're not going to really see him, coming to the mic and talking about the ins and outs of the, saying the everyday operation and who they're looking at and who, they're not looking at. He's playing the background, trying to get, the best roster possible. But, he has the magic touch, it seems, on draft day. From guys like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 4th-round pick. Melifonwu was a guy that coming into this year, I remember my preseason preview of the season. He was a guy who was on a roster bubble. 2 years in this system, hadn't really shown anything on the field, been battling injuries for his first 2 years, missed like 12 or 14 games in his first 2 years. Now, all of a sudden, everything is coming together for him, blossoming. Now finds himself in a safety rotation with a veteran guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So, just some of the few stories. Kirby Joseph is another, guy we got in the 3rd round of a draft, already been, called one of the dirtiest players out there in the league because he's knocking guys out of games. You know what I'm saying?
Stafford was not happy.
I would
they're
say
making an
the
impact. You know what I'm saying?
I would say the signing of the offseason has been David Montgomery. He's just worked out with you guys.
Especially thinking that was a
perfectly.
downgrade.
I got a
Jamal
chance
Williams.
to see a lot of him in Chicago, playing right here in the North. And he never played behind a great offensive line. He's a guy who can do a lot of different things. He can catch the football as well. Solid in pass pro. Not the big breakaway threat, but he has some wheels. A very, very solid back. He's a mutter. So, if we need to get into those games where, weather is a factor, he's a guy that can carry the load for us. Definitely been a welcome added addition for us, man. And this is the first year that Brad could possibly spend some money. The first couple of years we were kind of in salary cap hell with, bad contracts with no talent. He had to get those things off the books while working his magic through the draft. This is the first year he was able to go out and get some guys like a Cam Sutton and like a Montgomery replacing Jamal Williams. So definitely upgraded. And, man, it's looking great, man. And, folks, you know, I'm not going to lie to you. When he drafted Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 and he drafted Jake Campbell, you know, at first there was a lot of questions about, you know, the draft.
Yeah.
I closed my eyes and I'm like, man, you know, if you tell me before the draft we're going to get Brian Branch, we're going to get Laporta, we're going to get Gibbs, we're going to get Campbell, I'm cool with that. Now, the rounds and where we got them at, you know, if we get to talk about that, I'm like, wait a minute. But you tell me we're going to get those 4 guys in the first 2 rounds? Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
This is
go.
a great.
Is Laporta okay? Because I heard they signed Zach Ertz to a practice squad deal.
Yeah, Laporta, man, is getting better and better, man. You know,
He looked
had
great
the
last
Broncos.
week.
He played last week. He scored a touchdown, and I'm sorry, in week 1. And last week he had 9 catches for 65 yards. So he's back. Brock Wright was the second tight end on our active roster. He broke something. Don't give me the line what injury that he has, but he was out, leaving us really, really, really thin at the tight end spot. I think we have Anthony Fersker, the young man who used to play in Tennessee, on our practice squad. So to grab somebody like Zach Ertz, that's a nice pickup this time of year. And I think he's 100% healthy now. He had been battling some injuries over in Arizona. He gives us a guy with some insight on, you know, the San Francisco offense. You know, he's been playing in the last couple of years, so hopefully he can, you know, give us some kind words on how to, you know, beat them this week. And, you know, another weapon for Goff to work with in the short to intermediate area. So I think that's a nice pickup.
One of the greatest ring chasing moves I've seen in my whole lifetime. Wait till there's 4 teams left to go sign.
Why's it got to be ring? Why can't it be check chasing? Why can't it be check chasing?
I mean, don't the Texans playoff? They're a little less heavy than the regular season was, what I heard. But let's go. Let's move on. Let's get to the main event. What we're here for: Lions versus the 49ers for a trip to the Super Bowl. Brian, what's the path for the 49ers to beat this Detroit Lions football team?
I think it's controlling the clock and just running the ball and just making, like, if Goff's on the sidelines, then that's a good day for the 49ers, because that, I don't know, I've had question marks about the Detroit defense. Can they be that kind of defense that can make key stops in a mucky game?
Daren?
So basically, I'll make it short for you. This is my bullet point.
Absolutely.
Samuel. That's a big
He
one.
healthy.
Oh, God.
The health, and that changes just everything for Detroit: the physicality, the mentality, the big play capability, run defense that you guys just showed. Can you get it together again, or is Detroit going to be able to make that work? Because Goff can be very good in play action. That's something he's shown he can be very deadly in. Niners PI calls. Can we clean that up a little bit? You guys just killed yourselves last week against the Packers with bad PIs, bad times.
I don't know. Ambry Thomas was just terrible.
But it was always on 3rd and 15. You got one. It was on 3rd and 2. You got one. And then I talked about earlier about CHEN's Lions. For me, it's how does Campbell play the aggressive moment? So those are going to be my key factors I'm looking forward in the game. And then I always say this with Goff. You know that. Hold on to the ball, sir. Hold on to that ball. Hold on to it. So that's always a big thing.
Hold on to the ball.
Because Bosa's coming for you.
Yeah, slippery. He can get slippery figures like he did on what was that, Thanksgiving or whatever that was.
I got 3 keys to this game, and then CHEN, you can show your path for the Lions to beat the San Francisco 49ers, or you could say go 49ers how they'll beat the Lions and then switch it up.
Nah, we're not going to say that one. Not today.
Perfect. All right.
Not today, Tyler. Not today.
All right. I mean, I've seen
Not today. You got to actually earn this victory, homeboy. Hold on now.
All right. So
we're not going with America's pick. We're going with the 49ers.
America got to be right sometimes, man. America got to be right sometimes.
All right, I got Colton McKivitz has to block Aiden Hutchinson. He has to stay in front of Aiden Hutchinson. It's a huge mismatch. The right side of the Niners O-line.
That is a Huggy Bear, baby. We got one. That is a Huggy Bear.
You look at the right side of that line. It's been terrible all year. You look at the pressures on Purdy. It's way more than people think he gets because of Trent Williams. They think the O-line is great. It's not. They have to protect him on that right
It's just
side of the
every
line.
year with this guy, the O-line, man.
It's how you win football games. So, yeah, the O-line matters. Next is Ambry Thomas staying in front of Jamison Williams. We cannot get beat on a deep ball by Jamison Williams because I think Demo and Javarius Ward actually match up pretty well with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're the type of receivers they do well against, the strong, like, slot guys. They handle pretty well. And then the third one is Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw being the two best defensive players on the field at all times, with Nick Bosa making plays. They got to turn over Jared Goff because Jared Goff will make the stupid play. We saw it against the Bucs when he tried to lateral it backwards while getting sacked. We saw it when he threw the near pick in the end zone. There's mistakes to be had by Jared Goff. So those are my three things. Force turnovers on Jared Goff, block Aiden Hutchinson, which is a tall task, and then keep the deep ball in front of them. Do not let Jamison Williams get behind you for a big 65, 80-yard play. And somehow contain Jahmyr Gibbs as a fourth smaller factor because he's going to get his yards.
The number 5 one is don't let Brian Johnson cost you the game. Like 2 years ago was I left the bar early. I went home. I should have stayed at the bar, and the Rams beat us. Then last year was I had a bad battery. And
that's why Jaquaski Tart dropped the interception, you jackass. He left the bar.
It's like I'm going to make a decision. I'll stay in one place, and I'm not going to have a car issue, and hopefully we make it to the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna tell you what I like all you guys' both you guys' keys to winning the games for sure. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm not gonna get on here and tell you what we're gonna do. This is gonna be a tall task.
It's gonna be a good game.
It's gonna be a tall task. It's gonna be a tall task. But I will say this though: I think the path for beating San Francisco has been proven. It starts off first and foremost with containing your two MVP caliber players, and that's Brock Purdy and CMC. And it starts off with CMC. You guys went through a situation where you did not have Deebo Samuel for a couple of games. You didn't have Trent Williams as well for a couple of games. Those were two key losses. There's a possibility that Deebo will possibly miss this game and or be hampered in this game on Sunday. I think that can particularly affect your offense. But with that being said, you still have a lot of weapons to deal with. We got to corral CMC. In the games that you lost, those 3 games you lost, I think he didn't rush for over 65 yards in those games. He didn't have a multi-touchdown in those games. We got to corral him. We're coming in with the number 2 ranked rushing defense in the league. That's been a point of emphasis for us. We want to try to make you as one-dimensional as possible. We got to win on first and second down and get Brock Purdy back there to, now have to process as quickly as possible, get some pressure on him, get some negative plays, whether it be tackles for loss in the run game, whether it be sacks, whether it be turnovers. When you guys lost to Cleveland, when you guys lost to Minnesota, those were also games where you saw multiple turnovers on his part. He can at times be pressured. He can at times be fooled. It's not a lot, but at times it happens. In the Baltimore game, and I don't think we're Baltimore, but in the Baltimore game, they didn't get a lot of sacks or negative plays against him, but they put pressure on him and constantly fooled him pre-snap, post-snap with movement, blitzes, drops, and things of that nature, and he threw 4 interceptions. What we're going to try to do here, get some timely stops, get off the field, force him into 1 or 2 interceptions a game, and somehow, some way do our best to corral CMC and keep him from having a multi-touchdown game. And if we can do that, man, to me, the number is 23. We're going to give up a lot of yards, but the key is for us to not to give up a lot of points. Bend, but don't break. I think 23 is the key number. That's a number that our defense can very well, if they do their best, they can hold teams to. When they hold teams somewhere in that 20 to 23, maybe 24, 25-point range, again, it gives our offense a chance to outscore people. I think we're going to have an opportunity to run the football. We saw you guys this year. I don't know what your ranking was overall in terms of the teams, but you gave up roughly 90 yards per game rushing, but a 4.1 yard average per game. We just saw Aaron Jones have some success. There were a couple of chunk plays in there, but he had some success as well running the football again when teams have had success against you guys. Cleveland earlier, they did a pretty decent job running the football with Ford. Again, they had a backup quarterback. So again, it can be done, man. The Vikings did a decent job, fairly decent job running the football, but it was mostly Kirk Cousins going crazy, throwing for 380 yards in that game. So there is a pathway there. Again, control, corral, CMC if you can possibly. He's going to be a factor in the run and passing game. I really, really don't want to see him in the passing game. I don't like our linebackers in coverage. You tell me if you got CMC versus any of our linebackers and a lot of our safeties, that's a tough matchup for us. So I'm scared of that. But if we can, win on first and second down, keep him to that 65, 70-yard range in terms of rushing, limit the big plays, and now make Brock Purdy beat us, I'm cool with that. That's what I want to see. I want to see if he really is that guy, if he can go out there and make the plays. You know what I'm saying? Can he withstand one or two different, bad plays? Can we make the key interception that Green Bay dropped last week? Can we make the key field goal that Green Bay lost last week? Love looked good for 3 quarters. And then that fourth quarter, there was a throw that he missed to Aaron Jones that could have extended a drive for them. Would have been a first down. There was a throw that ended up being tipped by the tight end that was behind, late to the tight end. The guy ended up tipped that Greenlaw intercepted. And then we know the terrible decision. I just saw that on the replay. First down, 1st and 10, 42 seconds left, throwing across your body. We don't need any of that those golf specials, if you will. Him pushing the ball back laterally. We don't need any of those. If we can stay away from those, we're going to be okay. We win the time of possession game. We win the time of possession. We win the rushing game, and we win the turnover battle. I think we can win this game.
Brian, you got a response?
I got one more key. If Debo doesn't play, for the love of God, feed Ayuk. I don't know why. It's just some game plans. They don't give him the ball enough.
If he don't play, are you getting 175? Now we gotta hope Kittle don't get 125. That's the point. Then somebody gonna have a great game. We already know that, but we're counting on one or two mistakes, just like last week.
If the Lions linebackers don't show up, you guys are in trouble because that's where the Shanahan owns the middle of the field and the Kittle and McCaffrey. Yeah. It gets dangerous real quick playing the 49ers with those two weapons over the middle. Is this a crazy idea if Debo doesn't play? Instead of running Ray McLeod or Conley out there, you put McCaffrey in the slot maybe 20 times. You put Elijah Mitchell back there or Jordan Mason, who are both Jordan Mason's averaging 6 yards per carry, but he can't get a carry because of Christian McCaffrey hates leaving the field, even in blowouts. It's crazy how many carries he gets in garbage time. But I would love to see Christian McCaffrey split out in the slot, doing the Wes Welker thing against linebackers or safeties. I mean, CJ.
I don't want to see him this week doing that.
No.
I don't want to see him this week.
CJ,
and he has that type of capability, but I just think that Shanahan is going to want to try to establish the run. I mean, he's a very, very innovative coach. That's another thing that we have to talk about. He's a great, great coach. He's been here a number of different times. So he puts together great game plans. But I will also tell you this. I love what Ben Johnson does on our side of the football. Again, there were numerous plays that we saw last week where guys were running wide open versus that defense. I think, Matt LaFleur, exposed some things as well. So hopefully we can integrate some of that stuff into our game plan this week, and we can expose it as well. But there was a lot of good things to take away from the game that we saw last week. And again, I haven't seen all of the games that you guys lost, but just kind of looking at things, looking at some of the film of some of the highlights or lowlights, if you will. There's a path. There's a path. It might be tough, but there's a path.
Well, I mean, you talk about how Dan Campbell is kind of goes for it too much. I kind of feel like Shanahan could go for it more, but it's just he's an old school guy, and it'll be even 4th and 1. He'll go send the punter out there. We're gonna go with our defense and see how our defense does.
Well, I think Dan is definitely a daring person. Don't get me wrong; he's very daring. But with that being said, there's some thoughts about some of the things he's done and some of the comments that he's made where it's really been somewhat out of fear. Like, I don't want to put my defense back out there, so I'm going to go for it here, or I wanted to do this and that, So some of it is, again, us trying to overcompensate, if you will, for some of our deficiencies. He doesn't want us to get down by too many more points, but and I don't want to put my defense back there, so I'm going to try to go for it right here. So it's kind of like, well, which one is it, man? Which one is it? You know what I'm saying? Are you fearless and you're going to just do this, or are we trying to play tremendous complementary football? So that's the personal. That's me personally. Like, how do you balance that? But it's worked out so far, man, and we're gonna ride the train, man, until the wheels fall off.
You bring up the offense, and the Detroit Lions offense is great, and you bring up the defense, which has not been great this year. Aaron Glenn has had some bad moments. He's had some good moments, but you did get someone back in the postseason who I think who has had in the first two games a Bob Sanders on the Colts type impact, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Could he be the guy who makes this defense not great by any means, but adequate enough to get off the field on third down, get a turnover, make the offense not have to score 30 plus
If you watch this all season, and that's what I say, like, I talked to some folks and they're like, well, how do you guys feel like your defense is so bad and you're going to be able to do this week? Well, we've been able to do this the whole year. You know what I'm saying? We've gone out here 19 times overall, and we've won 14 times with the defense, and that's how we win. I'm totally at peace right now with who we are. You know what I'm saying? And with that being said, I think it can get better with C.J. Gardner-Johnson playing more snaps, but at the same time, that position itself is playing at a high level. If you talk about Brian Branch and what he was able to do, he's just coming off an 8-tackle, 1-sack performance, last week. You talk about Melifonwu, he's coming off a 9-tackle, 1.5-sack game last week and a tackle for loss. So those guys are playing at a high level. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had an interception. Those guys are playing at a high level. Now, we need somebody at the cornerback position to start stepping up and making some plays for us. We need our linebackers to make some plays and coverage. They're doing a decent job coming down, playing the run, but we just are not getting the coverage, in the plays versus the pass that we need from the linebackers play. We haven't getting the pressure consistently from anybody outside of Aiden Hutchins. So, but with that being said, we're starting to see more and more waves. AG is getting better at calling and dialing up pressures. He's calling better games for us as a defensive coordinator. I think he's grown as the year has grown. So hopefully, he continues to dial it up as he's done the last couple of weeks. And again, 23 is our number. Whether it's I think our last 4 or 5 opponents are probably falling somewhere in that range. I think we played a quality schedule. I think Dallas is in there somewhere, Tampa Bay, as well as the Rams. So, that's our number, and I'm kind of sticking to that. That's where we are.
Yeah, when I saw your guys' schedule, I wanted to look at it and be like, oh, they can't play on the road. They can't play outdoors. And they just couldn't come up with a storyline that matched that narrative. And I was like, well, all right, they're going to come to play. They're not scared to play on natural grass. They're not a dome team that can't play outside. They've done it all year. They beat the Packers on the road. They beat the Chiefs on the road in week 1. So they have some big wins on natural grass. Let's go into the predictions for this game. Brian, I want offensive, defensive players of the game and final score. Brian, I'll give you the mic first.
I'm going to go offensive player of the game because Debo might not play. I'm going to go Brandon Ayuk. And I'm going to go 31-24 49ers. So it's going to be down to the wire.
CHEN?
I like that. Oh man, it's tough, man. This is gonna be a great game. But I'm gonna go with the Lions, man. I'm gonna take my team of destiny, man. And if it's our time to be humble, it's just our time to be humble. But hey, if it's not, I see us pulling out a victory here. I see us coming up with a couple of advantageous stops, a couple of turnovers, getting to Brock Purdy again from your from that right tackle spot, especially, man. And it might be Aiden, it might be Josh Pascal, it might be a number of players, but I see us really attacking that side of the line a lot. Putting pressure on Purdy, getting them down. I think if we get 3 sacks in this game, and again, if we win the turnover battle and the time of possession and the rushing battle, we can win this game. And I think we win at 27-24.
All right. Do you have an offensive guy the 49ers need to be most aware of? Is it Junior Gibbs, Amon?
Oh, you know what? I mean, we already know about Gibbs and Amon Ra. We know about Laporta, but I'm gonna tell you a guy who can possibly do some damage on the outside, and he has a rapport with Jared Goff. He played with him at the Rams, and that's Josh Reynolds, man.
He had a big touchdown last week against the Bucks. The first one of the game, make a 10-3 game. That was a great game, by the way. We didn't talk about that enough, but just good big win by the.
That's what I'm saying. We're gonna have an exciting
Lions.
game, man. We've had the most exciting games the last 2 weeks of the playoffs, so I look forward to this game being. You know, the other game is going to probably get all the hype because you got the two big time quarterbacks there. But this game is the nightcap for a reason, man. There's going to be some fireworks in this game, man.
Absolutely. I'm not even going to get into the AFC Championship game. Great matchup: Chiefs, Ravens, Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes. Just really quickly, if your team wins, which quarterback scares you more? Is it Mahomes' obvious choice, or is the Lamar Jackson factor the way he's played?
It's not the quarterback. I mean, Mahomes is right now the I'm not gonna say the GOAT, but he's the best in the business right now. But the team that scares me the most is Baltimore. When you look at them, they're a little bit more complete offensively. Lamar is playing at a pretty high level, but defensively they create a lot of problems for us. We saw them earlier; they blew us out. We had a lot of guys who were injured, but to me, their team is just a little bit more complete. We've already beaten Kansas City, and I just feel like when you look at Kansas City defensively, they're going to be definitely problematic, but offensively, I think that they don't present the problems that they have done in the past. I know Mahomes is Mahomes, and it's extremely hard to bet against him, but I think Baltimore is the better team now. They got to go out and prove it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we play the games, but as a team, who I'm more scared of, who I'm not scared of, but who I'm less likely to face, it would be. I don't want to see that Baltimore team out of those two teams. Give me Kansas City, the team you already beat.
I agree with you. I think it's the Ravens. Lamar Jackson scares the crowd. The Niners have never beat them. They never beat Mahomes. They never beat Josh Allen. They can't beat, or they can't. That's a strong statement. They have trouble beating these quarterbacks that can run. But the reason I don't want to play the Ravens is Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. Like you brought, I was listening to your podcast, Sports Rap, and you said Warner and Greenlaw are the two best inside. I think it's maybe because I don't watch them enough, so I don't see their flaws. I think it's Roquan Smith. They're so fast; they fly to that ball. And Greenlaw and Warner are good, really good. They're right next to them, but I love those two linebackers. I think the Ravens are the tougher matchup for the 49ers, and it's sour grapes on both those teams. They beat us in the Super Bowl, the last two Super Bowls we've been to. So I can't wait to face either one if we get that far. But it is what it is. Brian, who do you think gives the Niners more trouble?
I'm gonna definitely say Baltimore, just because their defense is they swarm on you.
Absolutely. Okay.
What's your prediction, Tyler, for the game?
My prediction. I got Brock Purdy going off. I think Brock Purdy's gonna have a big game over the middle of the field. I think it's gonna be close. I'm not sold on the Niners defense. They have a who's who of defensive linemen: Chase Young, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa. Just hasn't produced this year. Like the money they've spent on it. The Lions have one of the best offensive lines. Greenlaw and Warner will be there. They'll make plays. I actually like our secondary more than most people do, as long as we don't play Logan Ryan again. I don't know why he played over Jair Brown. It made no sense. He was terrible for the whole game last week. I'd rather have rookie mistakes than guys who can't play. Like at this stake, coming from someone who can't play, but like can't play at that level when you watch on tape and whatnot. So I got Purdy and CMC and Kittle owning the middle of the field. I think it'll be 37-28. I think the offense will be fine. The defense will give up some big plays. They'll force some turnovers from Goff. But the Lions do scare me if Purdy acts up again for 2 quarters. But I just don't see it. He's never had 2 bad games in a row. So I believe in the 49ers and Brock Purdy with Shanahan calling the plays.
Yeah, Shanahan is scary. Again. You just gotta, try to make Purdy see some ghosts and try to, turn the ball over, take advantage of them. I definitely want to say I think that there's a possibility that we can run the football. Bosa's, definitely a beast. Kinlaw and Hargrave are, very, very solid players. But after that, I think there are some questions. I think there are some questions about, those guys who are as a run stopper. I know Chase Young. You know what I'm saying? When we see him out there, I think, you know, we're going to get a little bit excited about it, but it's going to be key to see if Frank Ragnow is able to play this game. We know that Jonah Jackson is not going to be here. That left guard spot does worry me a little bit. I forgot the kid's going to be starting for us. It's a hard name. Abusika, I believe. So that's going to be a very interesting situation. If Jonah, we know Jonah's out, but if Frank Ragnow is unable to go, things could be different up front. But again, it's going to be a tough drag out game, and you know you guys are definitely tough offensively, and there's much respect to that roster. It looks definitely good on paper, but we're gonna see, man. I hate to say it, man. I gotta throw a little shade out there. You know, we talk about the Cowboys and them, you know, losing in the first or second round, man. This NFC Championship round has been a little bit of a hang up, a little bit for San Fran in the recent past, if you will. So, you know, maybe some of that magic sprinkles itself on the Lions, and we can play spoiler this week.
Yeah, 4 and 5 years and nothing to show for it. 1 Super Bowl appearance. Yeah, leaves a lot to be desired. But at the same time, you feel spoiled for not appreciating it. Or not that I don't appreciate it, because I do. It's freaking exciting as hell doing a podcast about one.
Yeah, man. 4 out of 5 sounds pretty damn good, man. So 4 out of 5 sounds pretty good. It's 40 years between ours. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. A lot of people have it worse. I
have to be damn near 200 years old to see 4, man.
Brian brought up a guy who is a celebrity in your city who I grew up with. He was my first artist that I fell in love with his music. He has this national perception, kind of like Brock Purdy, where they put up these numbers, but some people always surrounded by Dr. Dre, talking about Eminem, Marshall Mathers. What's the perception close to the city of Detroit? Is he is he good for the community? I don't know anything about him as far as personal. I
think you know, as far as Detroit, man, Detroit is going to always embrace. We're a very, very embraceful place for the folks who stand up for the city, and I think M is definitely standing up for the city, represented the city extremely well, and whatever he's done at whatever stage of his career. So he's somebody who's definitely going to be embraced. Actually, he and again, when we talk about, you know, music and rap, he's someone who's done it at the highest level as well. Whether you're talking about lyrically, whether you're talking about sales, whether you're talking about, you know what I'm saying, street cred or what have you. You know, there's always going to be some purists who are not going to maybe, you know, rank him as high as they would like to rank him. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, what have you. But, you know, he's a real dude. They love him here in the city. They love him here in the community. He loves the Lions. Lose Yourself comes on and the whole fucking crowd loses themselves. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When he comes on, and he's been big and putting other folks on in the music scene here in Detroit, which is a very, very, very lively scene as well. I would encourage everybody to kind of check it out, old and new. You know what I mean? So he's a legend here. You know what I'm saying? He's a legend.
I mean, he's a legend everywhere. Because I've heard about the T Grizzly taking shots. I've heard about a couple other guys that I just didn't know how real it was. What the everyday.
I will say this. I think that the newer crowd, the younger folks, and we're getting older. I don't know how old you guys are. I'm just turned 47, so you know. When we were coming up, our parents looked down on our music a little bit and our artists and said that they were bums and they didn't know good music or whatever. And I think sometimes what happens when we look at some of these young guys and some of their music, we kind of do the same thing. It's a little different. It's not what we came up with. And I think, you know, sometimes M gets that treatment. And I think that there are some people who just, you know, aren't really moved by M and what he says. Just like there's some people that I'm not moved by, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, and the game and the music itself has so many other subgenres, if you will. So, you know, some folks are moved by drill music, some folks are moved by gangster rap music, some folks are moved by backpack music, some people, you know what I'm saying, are moved by I don't know what to call it, where it's almost singing and rap at the same time. So it's just so many other subgenres. The game is kind of Drake.
Drake genre, whatever that is.
So
hits.
with that being said, some folks just, maybe not moved by him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, as far as Detroit and what he's done for Detroit and what he's done in the music game and how people feel about him, he's a Detroiter for life, and he's big in the community. He does his thing, man.
Absolutely. With that being said, CHEN, I want to thank you for coming on, talking about rap. Plug your podcast, where you can find it, your Twitter, whatever you want to plug. Go ahead. Have the floor.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I think, I'm looking forward to this game. I'm still kind of basking in the glow of the victory, man. And my Michigan Wolverines winning. Although, we did lose Harbaugh, man. You guys didn't actually about Harbaugh, man. He's headed to the West Coast, man.
We're trying to keep Brian did ask if I wanted to bring it up. I said,
it's like the sanctions are coming. And he's like, I'm out of here. I'm going to the NFL.
Oh,
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think the sanctions were a big deal for him. I think that to be tried and true, he's always had this inkling for the NFL. I think
I'm kind of shocked the Chargers actually paid a coach to come. That's like elite. Maybe that's what they finally needed to do.
I'm sorry, you're kind of breaking up on me. You're shocked. You're shocked.
I'm shocked that the Chargers paid a coach to come in and actually, reinvent the organization. That's been their issue in the past.
I will tell you this. He is a winner. He's won at the NFL level. We've won at Stanford. He's won at San Diego. He's won at Michigan. He's a winner. The criticism that I heard through the grapevine years ago when he was in San Fran is that he was a little bit more of a too much of a rah-rah guy, that he kind of grinded a little bit those grown men a little bit too much. And, he would probably do better in a college setting where the kids kind of cycled in and cycled out versus the NFL.
And I heard he wasn't about bulky, and he wanted to be the GM, and York kind of like said, no, you're the coach. Bulky's the GM.
I mean, you just watch him on the sideline. He looks like he's an intense son of a gun that would rub on you if you're around.
I'm gonna tell you, man, he's a different cat. He's a different cat, no doubt about it. But he knows his football. And I don't know if it was, and I can't speak to exactly what happened with him and Balky. I don't know if it was I want to be the GM or you fucking up.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd rather it ruin this shit myself. You know what I'm saying? I know you're not gonna fire yourself, but you know what I'm saying.
I think he wanted like more weapons, receiver wise, and
I remember a couple little draft misses during that time period, though. It wasn't Trent Balky wasn't hitting the home runs all the damn time either, though.
There were a lot of misses. A lot of guys who ended up either getting arrested or were going into the draft with torn ACLs who he loved to draft because they were slipping in the draft because they were first round picks.
I think the control factor. I don't know. I can't speak to it. It's going to be very interesting to see what type of input or what control he gets with that organization. But I don't know if he was ever seeking that out or if he just had a Trent Balky issue, because Trent has had problems not only in San Fran and other places as well. So I'm kind of thinking that Trent may be the problem here. But I'm going to tell you what, I think he's always wanted to get to the NFL, always wanted to win a Super Bowl. I think he did Michigan a solid by coming back and taking that job. I think it took him longer to turn it around than he thought. He had never been anywhere, I believe, longer than 4 or 5 years in whatever coaching stop that he did. He took us to the mountaintop. He won the championship. And now it's like, hey, what more do I need to do? What more do I need to do? I don't even think the sanctions are going to be that heavy. I really don't. I think when you look at exactly what happened, and I'm going to speculate here, this is all Carlton Henry exclusive. It's an exclusive. I'm giving you guys an exclusive here. I think that once the NCAA has looked at this situation, everybody engages in this type of activity somehow, some way. I think when you look at the college football and how the evolution of signing and sign changing has gone on, this is a problem way before Connor Stallion came up. They didn't just start going from signaling in calls from the sideline or running the play in through one guy to throwing up all these signals and having 8 guys on the sideline because one school figured out how to steal signs. So this was an ongoing issue. I think the only problem that probably Michigan has had, because I think there's a number of third-party services that teams, coaches, schools can subscribe to get this information is that they actually hired an own staffer. So now you have a guy on your staff who violates this and who travel, but basically the information that's being decimated is the same that everyone has. Where do you have a competitive edge? You really don't.
I never bought into the whole like sign stealing thing.
So if you really don't have a competitive edge, then what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Your guy traveled.
I could see why Harbaugh went there. You're getting Justin Herbert,
so I don't think the sanctions were going to be great. I think he goes into a situation where he's got a quarterback, he's got a roster where they got to figure out some things in terms of the dollars, in terms of the salary cap. But otherwise, you've got a team that possibly could contend for a playoff spot next year.
Absolutely,
it's one of the best jobs I was out there.
With that roster, a couple quick good drafts. You're right at the top of the AFC with the Chiefs and who else? I don't believe in the Broncos or the.
And sometimes, and maybe you can trim some of that fat and get some of that salary cap right together because there is some clearly there's some fat there.
Absolutely, a lot of it. Thanks again, CHEN. I gotta go. We're at our.
I'm sorry, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Did you plug away? I don't know if you ever.
You can definitely catch me, man. You can definitely catch me. You can follow me right there at my handle at CHEN313. That's at CHEN313 on Twitter, X, Twix, whatever you're calling it. And also subscribe to my podcast. It's The Fellas Present Sports Rap. It's located on Spotify and Google Podcasts. It's The Fellas Present Sports Rap. Generally, weekly, we're talking about football. We're talking about a little bit of basketball. We're talking about college football. We're talking about draft, everything, Detroit. And we have a little bit of rap, maybe some R&B sometime mixed in there, you know what I'm saying, to kind of get us through our segues, man. We're trying to, keep it with a fresh, objective feel, funny, loose, and cool, baby. Thank you guys for having me.
Great podcast. I don't know how anyone does a podcast by themselves. I'm always blown away. It's absolutely
a lot of talking, a lot of water, a lot of mistakes. Hey, blame it to my heart. I have to remember a lot of information.
Oh, I believe you. It's tough doing it with talking to someone, let alone talking to yourself for an hour. Thanks for coming on. I forgot to play the intro again, Brian. It's turned into an outro. The best video in all Variety Sports Network promos. Subscribe, like, hit the bell, ring the bell. Make sure you are alerted when Variety Sports posts a video. And like that, CHEN, it was a pleasure. Peace. Brian, let's go Niners.
Peace.
3 years ago, it's overturned. I'm not so sure. Jerry Rice.
You are now tuned in to the TMB podcast.